Hello. This is about what is real. And everywhere I go, I'm clashing with people. And that is to say, you know, that there's very few people who agree with me on everything or anything. And so it's my character to pick at the scabs. And you hear about people who like to avoid conflict at all costs. Well, that's not me. Um, People who know me well will tell you that I live conflict. Now, I've gotten older and I learned to avoid conflict in my professional life. I don't have the power to be perfectly frank or blunt with people to their faces, but, in work. But I see talking to people as an opportunity to find out who they really are and what they really think underneath their facades. If I spend time with you and I don't inquire about your tastes or your political philosophy or your religious or underlying moral philosophy, you might think that's like a favor to you, being courteous. But what it really means is I probably think you're just a kind of a dull, drip like person. I don't want to talk to you. So you might imagine that a lot of people find me to be irritating. And, I guess I have to accept that fact. I'm irritating. You know, I have a few friends of mine who work in uh, comedy and comedy clubs and so forth. And it's kind of a strange way to make a living. You go around from club to club, and if you make a lot of people laugh, and the more laughs you get paid by the laughs. And if you make a lot of laughs, you get paid a lot of money. And I thought that might be a good way for me to make a living, but the problem is that I'm not funny, so I'm irritating. And there's not a lot of places where people can go where they go and pay money to be pissed off. That doesn't seem to be. But if there were, I'd be a star. And I guess Browns games, you go to Browns games and get paid to pay people to get pissed off. But you know, enough about me. I just wanted to point out that the reason I pick at people's brains is that I want to know what you think or how you think. I don't think I know everything, but I'm not always wrong either. But seriously, I'm interested in the nature of reality. And part of reality is what people think and how they think and why they think what they think. And I'm not just talking about facts and information and where you get your news. There's something called an epistemology, which if I understand it correctly, means how you think. The process of thought. That there's different ways of doing it, and many people even go through life without thinking very much, and maybe that's not such a bad thing for some people, because if you're living hand to mouth, like if you're in a war zone, you're not going to think about the mechanization of the workplace when you're worried about staying alive for the next few hours. But also, not thinking may be the only available option to some people. But if your existence is full of fear and agitation and so forth, and anxiety, you don't want to contemplate a lot of time. You don't have a lot of time to contemplate. But I think some people are actually proud of not thinking, which I've had people actually say to me, "Don't think about that kind of stuff. It'll make you go crazy." And I haven't gone crazy yet, but to me, they act like it's common sense to not think about deep or complicated thoughts. I mean, But I think that everybody thinks at least a little bit once in a while, even some animals, And I read this book by a guy named Heidegger, and he said that the most thought provoking thing about our thought provoking times is that nobody thinks anymore. Now, I'm really paraphrasing that, I'm not, maybe, but I'm not saying that I agree with him 100%, but maybe what he meant was that there are very few new thoughts anymore. All this depends on what you mean by thinking, of course. And I'm gonna give you what I generally think thinking means, which is it's the act of running an idea through your mind and analyzing all aspects of that idea and rationalizing the implications of that idea and everything that's possible with it. I think that, and some people are just better at rationalizing the implications of an idea than others. That's how some people are smarter than others, I suppose. But everybody thinks just a little bit once in a while, I think. And here's the thing. What is now occurring in society is something called groupthink, which is like that's a George Orwell thing, But what it is like your identity. You think with your group. Your identity is tied to the way that you think, and your group gives you the way to think, and you think that way. And I don't know if this is something that can even be avoided in this modern instantaneous communication and internet world. Everybody has they have logarithms that present you on Google with what they think you like and so forth. And this is where it comes down to the nature of reality. Remember that I said that part of thinking was analyzing all aspects of an idea. Well, most people resort to authorities to help them to analyze an idea. And maybe this is part of what Heidegger was getting at when he said people aren't thinking. The understanding an idea requires a certain amount of research and knowledge, But what people do now is they defer to an authority and adopt it as their own idea. I can name, names if I want to, but, I hear people repeat concepts and ideas and word for word that I've heard before on the radio and stuff, and they repeat it as if this is like either gospel truth or their own idea that it's unquestionably true, because somebody else is doing their thinking for them. And maybe I'll give you an example. The idea of global warming, which is in the news a lot. The words have to be manipulated here too. My scientist friends like me to refer to it as global climate change. There are at least two opposing analyses of this idea of global warming. You believe in global warming or you don't believe in global warming. And there seems to be advertising in the media competing to get people to think one way or another on this. But to be honest with you, let's be really honest. If the idea of global warming would have never occurred to me personally, except that I learned it from a teacher in school. And I read it in a magazine, and I saw it on TV, and I heard about it on the radio, and I watched the rain and the snow and the hot sun in the summer and the cold in the winter. And it would have never occurred to me personally, or for that matter, it would have never occurred to me to question whether or not there wasn't global warming, Whoever puts out the largest volume and the most effective advertisements in the media is the master of reality. The reality that you live in has been largely taught to you, and you take it on faith. Now, the current president, he's attacking the mainstream media. He has fake news. And if you think about it, how much of your understanding of reality do you take upon faith that you learned someplace, like in the media, or your mom and dad told you, or your grade school teacher told you, or television news told you, or you learned it in college, or maybe you read it in the Bible? The reality is what you understand the world to be is largely something that you take on faith. You don't have any, they tell you that the sun circles around the earth, right? But it looks like the earth, they tell you the earth circles around the sun. It looks like the sun circles around the earth. But you learn in school that, and there I argued with some guy not too long ago. He absolutely believes and claims that the world is flat. See, here's the thing. You have to take some things on faith. Reality, as far as you know, only goes as far as you can drive. If you happen to be somebody who is an astronaut or an airplane jet pilot, you might have seen the curvature of the earth. And here's my point also to all you skeptics who don't believe this stuff. It says, why are all these people trying to fool you? What's the point behind that? The nature of reality isn't going to change because somebody convinces you, puts out a convincing advertisement, and then everybody believes it. What everybody believes, if they take a vote on what is the nature of reality, that doesn't change the nature of reality. If everybody in the world, 99% of the people in the world, believe that the moon is made out of green cheese, that doesn't mean that the moon is made out of green cheese. I'm gonna tell you right here, my opinion is I'm gonna take the scientists' word about global warming. What the consensus of the scientists say, I'm gonna agree with it because I feel comfortable with that. And that's largely how people make decisions. But reality isn't what you think reality is. I'm mostly going to stay with the scientific analysis of things in general, though, to be honest with you. So I want to thank you all and have a good evening. If I can shut this thing off.